Hello, everybody. Welcome to Sunday Night Ghost Stories Extra, because we are on a Friday. Oh my goodness me, the end of the working week. Where did that go? It's, do you know what? If I'm perfectly honest with you, not disappointing, but I was a little bit put out tonight that I had to stop work to do ghost stories because I was right in the middle of a quite involved artwork project. Yeah, so anyway, here we are. I've just noticed actually I could really do with a shave tonight as well, but we'll have one tomorrow. So here we are in the library. We've got the fire going. Derpy is in the other room. I'm sure he will come and join us at some stage. We are still reading the excellent Haunted Places of Scotland, second edition. What are we drinking tonight? We're on a 2-beer strategy tonight. So we're having the Mikkeller American Pale Ale, 4.2%. This is from the Elements of Beer, hops, it says. Doesn't tell me anything else other than that's the artwork. It's one of the subscription beers from Beer 52. So, yeah, 4.8%, I beg your pardon. And it's by Mikkeller, product of Belgium. So there's the imprint on the back. So let's top up the glass. And oh, do you know what? We haven't even started the show yet. And already, no, not quite yet. Not quite a dead soldier yet. And we are backing it up with the bump element, which is the single grain scotch from Lidl, which is glorious stuff. Although I did see when I was doing my shopping this evening, it's a honey kind of Tennessee whiskey. I'm tempted to try it. I mean, I've got this Beebles original stuff, which is, it's okay, but I'm not quite sure whether I like it or not. But yeah, Tennessee whiskey with honey. So it might be worth a punt. When we run out of the single grain, I might go for a bottle of that. Let's see how we feel. There we go. What do you know? We've got a dead soldier and run VT.
Oh, it's jolly nice of you. Hello, dead soldier. Seen plenty of those in my time.
Indeed. Right. Dunny-Vague Castle. In a pretty spot on a bay by Lagavulin. Lagavulin. Read that again. Good start. In a pretty spot on a bay by Lagavulin Distillery, little survives of the scenic Dunny-Vague Castle, except the ruin of a small 15th century keep on top of a rock, and the remains of a small inner and a larger outer courtyard. The castle belonged to the MacDonald Lords of the Isles. Sorry, to the MacDonald Lord of the Isles, who had their main stronghold at Finlaggan, also on Islay. The Lord of the Isles was forfeited by James IV in 1493, and the castle then had a very stormy history, being besieged and changing hands often between the MacDonalds and their enemies, the Burger Kings. In 1598, the last MacDonald of Dunny-Vague defeated the Macleans of Duart at the Battle of Trey Grinart. He was, however, ordered to surrender the castle and then forfeited in 1608. Islay fell to the Campbells of Cawdor in 1615, and the castle was occupied until about 1677, but was slighted soon afterwards, and the Campbells moved to Islay House. The ruin has been consolidated. Dunny-Vague is said to be haunted. That's all it says. I mean, we get a great big long preamble about the history, and then it says Dunny-Vague is said to be haunted. Well, yeah, obviously it's said to be haunted. The book is The Haunted Places of Scotland. Access at all reasonable times. Care should be taken. Well, that sounds a bit ominous, doesn't it? Anyway, Oh, let's have a beer, shall we? We've earned this today in the magnificent Rush beer glass from viewers Kirsten and Steve in the United States. Cheers, me beers. It's quite sweet, that. Very nice. Right. Durris House. Durris House, an altered and extended tower house, was held by the Frasers from the 13th until the end of the 17th century. The house, divided into three, is still occupied. A green lady is said to haunt the castle, reputedly the wife of the Covenator Fraser Lord. Read that again. A green lady is said to haunt the castle, reputedly the wife of the Covenator Fraser Lord, when the royalist Marquis of Montrose torched the house on the 17th of March, 1645. Not very well written. Reputedly the wife of the Covenator Fraser. Right, I get it now. There should be a comma there. A green lady is said to haunt the castle, reputedly the wife of the Covenator Fraser, comma, Lord, when the royalist Marquis of Montrose torched the house on the 17th of March, 1645, which is 4:45. The poor woman is said to have been distraught, feeling that she was responsible after having cursed Montrose, and she drowned herself in a nearby burn. Her curse may have had some effect, however, as Montrose was finally defeated in 1650, captured, and then taken to Edinburgh, where he was executed. Incroyable. Itchy nose. It's one of those days today where I've just had an itchy nose all day. Slange. Oh, lovely. Eagle Hotel, Lauder. The hotel was originally a manse, but in the early 19th century was converted into a coaching inn. The building is said to be haunted, although manifestations are apparently rarely witnessed. How do we know it's haunted then? I just didn't get that. Right, here we go. Well, I'll have a beer after this one. Earlshall Lucas, which is RAF base there. Used to fly Phantoms, latterly Tornadoes. I think it's probably Eurofighters now. Anyway, Earlshall Lucas. Earlshall, a fine courtyard castle with a main block of three stories, was built by Sir William Bruce in 1546, which is 4:45. Unusually, he had survived the Battle of Flodden in 1513. The hall on the first floor has a large carved fireplace and panelled walls, and the second floor gallery has a painted ceiling from the 1620s. One of the family was Sir Andrew Bruce of Earlshall, known as Bloody Bruce. As he, sorry, read that again. I must stop doing that. It just takes me out of the story. One of the family was Sir Andrew Bruce of Earlshall, known as Bloody Bruce, as he and his men killed Richard Cameron, a noted Covenator and leader of the Cameronians, at Aird's Moss in July 1680. Bruce then hacked off Cameron's head and hands and had them. Bruce then hacked off Cameron's head and hands and took them back to Edinburgh, where they were tried for treason. Earlshall is thought to be haunted by the ghost of Sir Andrew. Sightings of his apparition have been recorded, as have the ghostly sounds of heavy footsteps on one of the turnpike stairs when nobody is about. Objects are also said to be moved about, and there is a story that a bed looked as if it had been slept in when the room it was in had been unoccupied for some time. Another apparition is allegedly that of an old woman, believed to have been a servant. The gardens are occasionally open under Scotland's Garden Scheme or by arrangement. Website address. Beer and a bump. I got starving tonight. I really is. So we've got nice big salad tonight. So cheers, me beers. I have just realised something. Remiss of me. We're going to have to pause for a second whilst I go and get another book, because I have realised that because we're coming towards the end of February, thankfully, it's time to read the Ghostly Almanac of Devon and Cornwall, which is not immediately to hand. So we're just gonna have a timeout, and I'm gonna go and get the book, and then we'll read that. Shall we read that in the second half? I think we'll do that in the second half. So let me go and get the book a second. Yep, we'll do the Ghostly Almanac of Devon and Cornwall in part 2 of tonight's show. So, Eastgate Shopping Centre, Inverness. Some of the shops in the Eastgate Shopping Centre are said to be haunted, allegedly by the bogle of a former worker. Manifestations are reputed to include doors opening and closing by themselves and light bulbs and fuses blowing for no apparent reason. Bum bum bow, incroyable. Cheers, me dears. Shall we have a bump? I think we will. I think we may as well. Let's have the show go downhill rapidly. So, slange me var, everybody. Oh, lovely. Eden Court Theatre, Inverness. On the west bank of the River Ness, the Eden Court Theatre, which was opened in 1976, incorporates the building used as a bishop's palace, which was later converted into a residential pre-training centre for nurses. Eden Court was renovated and extended in 2007, and the theatre has a busy programme of drama, dance, music, comedy, musical theatre and film. A green lady has reputedly been witnessed here, the wife of one of the bishops. She is said to have hanged herself in the palace. The unexplained sounds of feet coming from unoccupied areas have also been reported. Theatre telephone number and website address. What are we up to? 16 minutes, yes. Trying to time this out tonight. Oh, I can't wait for halftime, because at halftime I've got some of these wasabi snacks. We've got the other ones as well. Them's Gert Lush, everybody. They are really quite delicious. In fact, when I was in Lidl this afternoon, I bought some more of the wasabi ones. And for that, I can only blame my good friend Faye, who has got me into wasabi snacks. And there she is. My good friend Faye. Pick the plate up, why? Pick the plate up, why? Just pick it up. Pick the plate up. What does it say? And apparently I'm the one who's smutty. Eden Ample Castle. Eden Ample Castle, a fine Z-plan tower house, was built by Sir Duncan Campbell of Glenorchy, Black Duncan of the Castles, around 1584. The story goes that Campbell had ordered that the castle should have a parapet walk. The mason forgot to add this feature, but tried to show him it was possible to walk around the roof, as Campbell refused to pay him. Campbell, however, shoved the mason from the roof, so saving himself all the fee. The apparition of the mason can reputedly be seen occasionally still clambering around the roof. Oh my goodness me, Edinburgh Castle. This is a monster one. Edinburgh Castle. Been there, goodness me. When did I go there? I'll have to dig out the slides and goodness me, that dates me, doesn't it? The slides. I went there in 1988 when I was 20. I wasn't even 21 then. I was still 20. And it was my friend Mike who rang me up on a Friday and said, look, we can get the train up to Scotland for a tenner. Do you want to do it? And I said, yeah, let's do it. So we got our £10 return to Scotland. After 10 hours on the train, we got to Edinburgh. Mike was all for sleeping at Edinburgh Station, but apparently that wasn't possible. So we then went and found a bed and breakfast. And then we stayed overnight in Edinburgh, and then next day got the train back to England. But we did go to King Arthur's Seat and Edinburgh Castle, and I will try and dig the pictures out. So yeah, I'll see what I can do. Anyway, Edinburgh Castle. Standing on a high rock in the middle of Scotland's capital, Edinburgh Castle was one of the strongest and most important fortresses in Scotland and has a long and bloody history, only a little of which can be related here. The castle is the home to the Scottish crown jewels and to the Stone of Destiny, once held at Dunnad and then Scone, on which the kings of Scotland were inaugurated. And the castle is a fascinating complex of buildings with spectacular views over the city. The oldest building is the small 12th century chapel dedicated to St. Margaret, wife of Malcolm Canmore, probably built by her son David I. The castle had an English garrison during the Wars of Independence, but was recaptured in 1313 when the Scots, led by Thomas Randolph, climbed the rock, surprised the garrison, and retook it. After the murder of the young Earl of Douglas and his brother at the Black Dinner here in 1440, it was attacked and captured by the Douglases. In 1566, Mary, Queen of Scots, gave birth to the future James VI in the castle. The fortress also saw much action in Covenanting times and during the Cromwellian invasion and Jacobite risings. A castle, got a fly in there. The castle is reputedly haunted by several ghosts. A drummer, sometimes reported as being headless, has allegedly been witnessed. Full stop. Here's apparition. Read that again. A drummer, sometimes reported as being headless, has allegedly been witnessed. His apparition is said to be a warning that the castle is about to be besieged, and was first seen in 1650 before Cromwell attacked. Drums are reputedly heard more often than an apparition is seen. Manifestations were reported in 1960, although it is not clear who was about to besiege the castle. Exclamation mark indeed. A piper went in search of a tunnel, believed to travel from the castle to Holyrood House, 1 mile away at the end of the Royal Mile, but was never seen again. It is said that sometimes the faint sound of his pipes can still be heard. The spectre of a dog whose remains are buried in the Pets Cemetery reportedly haunts the battlement. There are also stories of ghostly prisoners being witnessed in one of the castle vaults, and that the bogle of the wronged Janet Douglas, Lady Glamis, who was burned to death as a witch on what is now the castle esplanade in 1537, has also been seen here. See Glamis Castle. Blah blah blah. Historical Scotland, open all year. Daily times may be altered during tattoo and state occasions. Closed the 25th and 26th of December. Open 1st and 2nd of January. Telephone for opening hours, telephone number and website. Bum, bum, bum. I'm just having a look to see what we've got left to read here. Oh my goodness me, there's quite a bit. What are we up to? 23 minutes. I was going to look something up just now. I'm trying to remember what it was. No, gone completely. Cheers, me beers. Actually, I'm just going to have a quick that was it. Black Dinner of 1440. So let's just do Black Dinner 1440. Right, here we go. I might actually use Google's AI version of it. The Black Dinner of 1440 was a notorious act of political treachery in Edinburgh Castle, where 16-year-old William Douglas, 6th Earl of Douglas, and his 12-year-old brother David were executed by rival nobles. A black bull's head symbolizing death was placed on the table before the boys were subjected to a mock trial and beheaded. Oh, that's grim. The execution did not immediately destroy the House of Douglas, but it severely weakened their influence and solidified power for Crichton and Livingston, who were managing the young king. The incident is a famous example of medieval political intrigue where hospitality was used as a trap to eliminate rivals. There we go, folks. That's Google's AI overview, but pretty accurate. So let's have another beer and a bump, shall we? Cheers, me beers. What are we up to? 25 minutes. Yeah, we're getting there. Slange. Edinburgh Festival Theatre, Edinburgh. The theatre is said to be haunted by the apparition of the great Lafayette Sigmund Neuberger. Lafayette was killed when part of the Empire Palace Theatre, dating from 1892, burned down in 1911, probably due to an electrical fault or because a gas lamp was knocked over by an escaping lion. Although nobody is certain. Put that on your insurance claim. The fire was started. What was it started by? Either an electrical fault, yeah, okay, or a gas lamp that was knocked down by an escaping lion. The curtain was brought down. and the curtain was brought down, but the mechanism failed, and those behind the curtain were burnt to death. 2 bodies were found, one believed to be the great Lafayette, and the other, perhaps, his body double. The theatre was out of action for several months, but was restored, then remodelled in 1928, and then later used for bingo. The theatre was virtually rebuilt in the 1990s, and in 1994 reopened as the Edinburgh Festival Theatre, with a varied programme of performances including opera, ballet and music. Since the renovation, however, an apparition of a black figure believed to be Lafayette has been seen several times, and to be felt at the spot where pictures of him are displayed. Another ghost said to be witnessed on the top floor at the entrance to the auditorium is believed to be the sad bogle of a young woman. It is said that she is the ghost of a would-be dancer who never managed to get on stage, but would entertain the audience before shows. The spot where she is witnessed is said to be very cold, and there is the unexplained smell of cheap perfume. There are also many other reported manifestations, including the sounds of people fighting on the back stairs, perhaps as a result of a love triangle. The back upper circle, part of the original Empire and untouched, is said to be haunted by the ghost of a female usher. I think it should be a female usher. Typo. Of a female usher who is said to have blown on the ear of a lad she liked. Lucky lad. One seat is also said to be occupied by the phantom of a well-dressed older man in a hat. One of the staff is said to have had a conversation with the ghost, one of the staff is said to have had a conversation with the ghost, believed to be that of a previous owner, who told the person that if he disapproved of the performances, he would make it known. Theatre with bar and cafe, telephone number and website. We are coming up to half time. Before we do half time, we'll do one more, and then that's it. Edinburgh Film House. The Edinburgh Film House is located in a former church which dates from 1830, which is about 6:30. Although it was later rebuilt and then remodelled for use as cinemas and bar in the 1970s and 80s. The Film House is the home of the Edinburgh International Film Festival and is said to be haunted by the apparition of a woman, although there does not appear to be any story about the origins of the bogle. Cinema with cafe, bar, telephone number and website address. Talking of which, sounds a lot like our beloved Clevedon Curzon. I have got to have a trip to the Clevedon Curzon at some stage. I am trying to rope some of my friends in to have a all expenses paid trip there. So now we'll see what we can do. Anyway, that's it for half time. Cheers, me beers. Oh, Slange. Has viewer David joined us? Has a look. Viewer David has indeed joined us. He says, "Good evening, JM. Greetings from a knackered southerner." Know the feeling. Well, viewer David, tomorrow I will be cracking on with artwork for a particularly ghostly project I'm working on. Wink. In 1/48 scale. Very complex drawings, actually, but no, I'm going to crack on with that tomorrow so I can get that out of the way. And then going to do some prep and a poster for Sunday night's Sunday service. So here we go. Let's have some wasabi mix rice snacks. Cheers, me beers. Oh, these are beautiful. when I was coming back from that there Western Supermare this afternoon, I did stop off at Lidl in Whirl and did get myself another couple of bags of these bad boys, because not being able to get to the Chinese supermarket by IKEA, these fulfill my desire for wasabi snacks. Oh, they're lovely. So, fingers crossed, we will hopefully finish off some artwork tomorrow. And then this is the bit that viewer David will enjoy. Then from about 3 o'clock onwards, it's going to be workshop time, leading all the way through to opera on Radio 3 in the evening. So hopefully, fingers crossed, should be a good solid 6 or 7 hours of workshop time. I'm just going to have a quick look on the BBC Sport website for All Sport Rugby Union. Scores and fixtures. So Saturday. Oh, there is no Six Nations on Saturday by the looks of things. It's Bristol versus Sale, Bath versus Gloucester. Oh, that would be a grudge match. Well, I'm just going to look up Six Nations Championship. So no, the next games are literally end of the week. So Friday, the 6th of March, will be Ireland versus Wales, and then Saturday the 7th of March will be Scotland versus France and Italy versus England. But no, I love the Six Nations, absolutely brilliant. Viewer David says a ghostly nudge nudge wink wink, say no more. Yeah, exactly. Although I will say the drawings are incredibly complex. I mean, I was literally rivet counting, and I'm bringing the artwork elements into, sorry, this is get a bit boring, folks, but I bring the artwork elements into Illustrator, and because of the way I work, I hate open paths. I need to have closed paths so that I have complete control over the artwork. I know it makes me sound like an egomaniac, but guess what, folks? I'm an egomaniac. So all the rivets mostly transfer across instantly as little closed circles. Some don't. So I'm there going through them one by one and converting them into circles of little closed circles. Not going to mean anything to a lot of people out there thinking, what is he blathering on about? But I am. And the other thing I also do is I enlarge the artwork so I can get in there and make sure all the lines align properly. So something like a nose undercarriage leg, I took the drawings and enlarged them to full size. And so these were 1-to-1 scale, and I was able to go in there and tweak everything. I know it doesn't mean a thing, but viewer David will be sitting there thinking, goodness me, man, get a life. And I'd agree with you, viewer David. Well, shall we have some of the, we've got some other snacks here as well. We've got Japanese style mixed rice snacks. What to report today? That's been about it, really. It's been work. I had to dash off for a mercy mission this afternoon, but that's it, really. Oh, shall we do the illustrations? Actually, let's just have a quick look at the... Right. I think we did these ones on Wednesday, but we've got Dunfermline Palace, Dunatar Castle, and Dunrobin Castle. There we go. Then we have Duns Castle, Duntulum Castle, Dunsky Castle, and Dunnyvague Castle. So, are we all happy with that? And then we have Mitder, Edinburgh Castle, Edinburgh Film House, and Edzell Castle. So there we go. Yeah, I'm going to dig out the Dunrobin Castle. Very good, David. I'm going to dig out the photographs from 1988 of 20-year-old me on King Arthur's Seat, a landmark, not anything untoward. So, part deux of tonight. So let's have the beer. And the bump. And tonight's other beer is Saint Pierre, Saint Pierre's Abbey, Saint Pierre, Belgian Abbey beer, blonde. 6%. Oh my goodness me. Oh my goodness me, 6%. It should not be allowed. I seem to remember a conversation I was having with friend Reg during the week when we were out walking, and he mentioned a beer that has got 8%. Oh, the beer burps at 39 minutes and 55 seconds. I do apologize, folks, but I don't really. Right, Edzell Castle. Standing by the magnificent walled garden, ruinous Edzell Castle dates from the 16th century and was built by the Lindsay Earls of Crawford. Mary, Queen of Scots, held a privy council at Edzell in 1562. One story is that a Lindsay laird hanged the sons of a gypsy woman for poaching, and she cursed him. His pregnant wife died that day, while he himself was devoured by wolves, all as foretold, of course. The castle is said to be haunted by a white lady, reputedly the spirit of Catherine Campbell, second wife of David Lindsay, 9th Earl of Crawford. She was thought to have died in 1578, but was only in a coma and was interred alive in her family vault. She eventually regained consciousness, but only after a sexton had tried to steal her rings by cutting off her finger. The unfortunate woman then died of exposure at the castle gate, although it is also said in another version that she lived for some time after the event. The ghost has apparently been witnessed in recent times, including in 1986, and is described as being quite small, with a white floral dress and a blur for a face. It is also said to exude a sickly smell or faint odour of scent. A photograph is said to have been taken of the bogle when it appeared at one of the windows. The phantom is also reputed to have been seen in the fine walled garden of the castle, as well as in the burial ground of Edzell Old Church, which is the location of the Lindsay burial aisle, also open to the public. Historical Scotland, open all year, April to October, daily, November to March, Saturday to Wednesday, closed Thursday and Friday, closed 25th and 26th of December, and the 1st and 2nd of January. Telephone number and website. Now, I was going to say, again, the number of times, that previous story we had about the piper being sent underground and disappearing and his ghostly pipes being heard. Oh my goodness me, how many stories has that been applied to? And again, with Edzell Castle here, somebody being buried alive and somebody wanting to have the rings off their fingers. Again, it seems to be a popular story, that. So make of that what you will. We're going to have some more snacks, ladies and gents. Tried to eat that. That's my sorry, I just reached down. I thought I'll reach down for the Japanese style mix. No, those are hygienic wipes. I'm always tempted to put some of these on my salad, actually. Sorry. Just trying to get the snacks out of the way. Also, when we have finished here tonight, and it's supper time, usually I will catch up on some old Family Guys, but no. Tonight we will be watching the new season of Monarch: Legacy of Monsters. Oh my goodness me. Exciting times, ladies and gentlemen. Anyway, Eglington Castle. Eglington Castle, a huge, very ruined mansion, was built on the site of an old stronghold of the Montgomery Earls of Eglington. The family had a long and bitter feud with the Cunninghams of Glencairn. The castle here was burnt in 1528 by the Cunninghams, and Hugh, 4th Earl of Eglington, was murdered by them around 60 years later in revenge. The Montgomerys killed every Cunningham they could find, cutting the murderer to pieces. That's a very dark episode of Happy Days. The castle was replaced by a large mansion in 1802, also called Eglington Castle. And it was here that the Eglington tournament was held in 1839, a magnificent medieval style tournament. The house, however, was, however, unroofed in 1925, and all that now survives is a single corner tower and some low walls. The ruins stand in a public park, and the site is said to be haunted. There has been more than one paranormal investigation, although, scary though ghosts may be, it is the drink-fueled local youth that have frightened off some investigators. A paranormal investigation was undertaken by Spirit Finders Scotland, website address, and by Ghost Hunters, website address, and by Renfrewshire Ghost Hunters website address, and by West of Scotland Paranormal Research, who ironically have the longest name and the shortest URL. Don't we all, fellas? Right, beer time, and probably snack time as well. Cheers, me beers. I love this Saint Pierre. Oh, I get that from Home Bargains. What a great shop that is. Cheers, me beers. We are actually out of scotch. I was drinking an empty glass there. And we're going to have some more wasabi. Eilean Donan Castle. Eilean Donan stands in a tranquil, unspoilt location at the mouth of Loch Duich on the road to Skye, and the castle is probably one of the most photographed and recognisable of Scottish strongholds. A strong tower with walls up to 15 foot thick, and a courtyard stand on a small island, now joined to the mainland by a bridge. Although once quite ruinous, it was completely rebuilt between 1912 and 1932. Several films feature the castle, including Highlander, Loch Ness, The Master of Ballantrae, and more than one James Bond film. Eilean Donan was long held by the Mackenzies and sheltered Robert the Bruce in 1306. In 1331, Randolph, Earl of Moray, executed 50 men at Eilean Donan and spiked their heads on the castle walls. In 1511, the Macraes became constables of the castle, and the Macraes and Mackenzies were involved in the Jacobite risings and suffered heavy casualties in the Battle of Sheriff Muir in 1715, which is 5:15. William Mackenzie, 5th Earl of Seaforth, garrisoned Eilean Donan with Spanish troops in the rising of 1719. But 3 government frigates battered it into submission. The castle surrendered and the powder magazine was then blown up, including 343 barrels of gunpowder, devastating the castle. The Spaniards, who numbered some 300 in all, were defeated at the nearby Battle of Glen Shiel, along with an army of Scottish Jacobites, and the site is marked by an information board. The ghost of one of the Spanish troops killed at the castle during the siege or at the Battle of Glen Shiel is said to haunt the castle. The ghost is said to carry its head under its arm. Another apparition, Lady Mary, reputedly haunts one of the bedrooms. Open mid-March to early November daily. Gift shop, open all year. Telephone number, website address. I might go in there actually. Oh my goodness me! I thought we'd dead soldiered. Actually, we are for the second time tonight. There we go. So the Saint Pierre, close-up shot of that. There we go. The Saint Pierre, great beer. But what do you know? Another Dead Soldier. And run VT.
Oh, it's jolly nice of you. Hello, Dead Soldier. Seen plenty of those in my time.
Great film. Cheers, me beard. Oh, we're going to have some more Japanese style snacks. What did you do on Friday night? I don't know. I tuned in to watch Sunday Night Ghost Stories Extra, but I just watched a confused man from Dudley eating Japanese style rice snacks from Lidl, which are delicious. The beer burp, still apologise. Sorry, I'm just responding to my friend Faye's mother. Right, let's crack on, shall we? Because I get hungry. Ethe Castle. An impressive and picturesque building, Ethe Castle dates from the 15th century. Sorry, read that again. An impressive and picturesque building, Ethe Castle, dating from the 15th century, was for some of its long history a property of the Beatons. The castle was used by David Beaton when he was abbot of Arbroath in the 1530s, and then when he was Archbishop of St Andrews and a Cardinal of the Roman Catholic Church. He was married to Marion Ogilvie, whose apparition is said to be seen at Claypots. See that entry. And they had 7 children, although his marriage was later annulled. I think we can figure out their favourite hobby. Beaton was a controversial character, having been involved in the burning of heretics, but he himself was brutally murdered in 1546 at St Andrew's Castle. Also see that entry. And his naked body hung from one of the windows. His body remained unburied for more than 7 months, pickled in a barrel of brine. His ghost was apparently witnessed at Ethe from shortly after his murder. The sound of his ghostly footsteps climbing a turnpike stair to a secret room in his own chamber have reportedly been heard, as well as sightings of his apparition. Manifestations have been reported in recent times. Other unexplained noises include the sound of something heavy being dragged across the floor. Beaton's ghost is also said to haunt Melgund, Balfour, Bleepo. Beaton's ghost is also said to haunt Melgund, Balfour, Bleepo, or Bleppo, and St Andrews. Another ghost was apparently that of a child. An activity such as small footsteps, the sound of playing and sobbing was centered in a room where a skeleton of a child was later said to have been found. The entrance to this chamber is said to have been walled up and the child entombed inside. When the bones were buried, this haunting is believed to have stopped. A further apparition is reputedly a green lady who allegedly appears when one of the owners is about to die or misfortune is about to strike. Stories have her being seen in the walled garden. Ethe passed to the Carnegies soon after Beaton's murder, and they held the property until 1928. The building is still occupied, and it is possible to stay at Ethe. Accommodation and conventional facilities available, telephone number and website. Brilliant book. Absolutely incroyable, everybody. I'm enjoying these snacks, by the way. Mm. 57 minutes, so lovely. I've suddenly realised we were meant to read from this tonight. We'll do that on Sunday. Actually, let's just have a quick look. I'm just having a quick look for... Yeah, do you know what? We will... How many pages have we got? No, we'll save that for Sunday. Or will we? Let me have a think about this for a second. No, we'll do it tonight. Where did we get up to? Everlick Castle. So we'll do that on Sunday. So, oh, the beer burps again. Let's have some more snacks. Let's have some snacks to fortify ourselves. So, from a ghostly almanac of Devon and Cornwall, February, Rosevere, Scilly Isles. On the 24th of February, 1784, the East India Company packet ship Nancy, bound from Bombay to London, sank in a raging storm off the Scilly Isles, with the resultant loss of the lives of her entire crew and 13 passengers. Among these was Anne Cargill, the most successful actress of her day, who, up until the day of her death, had led such a scandalous life that her outrageous behaviour had prompted questions in Parliament. Indeed, having been a great success in India, she was only leaving that country because the then Prime Minister, William Pitt the Younger, had demanded that she should be deported on the grounds that an actress should not be defiling the pure shores of India. Cargill was born plain Anne Brown, the daughter of a coal merchant from London, and made her stage debut at Covent Garden in 1771 at the age of 11. She soon became a star, taking the lead part in numerous operas and musicals until she met and ran away with a celebrated playwright and gunpowder manufacturer, Miles Peter Andrews. She was still very young. Her father sought to make her a ward of court, but she defied him and ran off again, returning to her meteoric career as a singer. Once, when her father tried to seize her outside a theatre, her fans thwarted his attempts. In 1779, Anne eloped to Edinburgh with a Mr. Cargill, returning to the stage as a married woman and becoming the highest paid actress in the world, receiving the then almost unheard of sum of £10 a week for her performances. At the height of her fame, she found another lover and eventually fled to India to join him. However, it was rumoured at the time that she was also enjoying a romance with ship's captain John Haldane, who also captained the Nancy on her tragic last voyage. The storm of 1784 raged for a whole week, making any rescue attempt in the wake of the wreck impossible. When a boat was finally put out to check for survivors, all that was found were the battered and much mutilated bodies of the crew, who had been dashed against rocks by heavy seas for several days. However, 2 bodies were surprisingly found virtually unscathed, those of a young woman and a baby clutched tightly in her arms. The remains of all the recovered bodies were hastily buried in makeshift graves on the uninhabited island of Rosevere. However, when paperwork from the wreck washed up onto the beaches, However, when paperwork from the wreck washed up onto the beaches was retrieved and sent to London, it was established that the young woman had been none other than the nation's favourite actress, Anne Cargill. Her body was immediately exhumed and buried in St. Mary's. Yet her spirit seems to have remained on Rosevere. Workmen who lived on the island while constructing the Bishop's Rock Lighthouse in the 1850s reported a number of ghostly happenings, and there have been reports of the sound of a baby crying and of a woman's voice sweetly singing a lullaby. I can hear Derps woken up. Oh, goodness me. Are we really going to get to the end of these stories tonight? I don't think we are. Just having a look. We punched through the hour mark. I think we might have to finish some of these off on Sunday. Let me have a think about that. No, we'll crack on. Cheers, me beers. South Devon. During the night of the 7th of February 1855, a heavy snowfall blanketed the whole of South Devon. Villagers throughout the area woke to a world that had turned completely white overnight. And they also woke to something even stranger, the cause of which continues to be a mystery to this day. It's going to be the footsteps. Something or someone had left a trail of footprints in the snow that stretched for more than 100 miles from Topsham through to Totnes. The prints were shaped like long, narrow hoof prints and appeared to have been made by a 2-legged rather than a 4-legged creature. The prints zigzagged across the county in a series of straight lines and, at one place, had even spanned the River Exe, stopping at one bank and then continuing on the opposite bank, as if whoever or whatever had made them had forded the river. The prints went over roofs, through narrow drain pipes, and even seemed to have passed through solid walls, stopping at one side and continuing on the other, leaving the snow on top of the walls undisturbed. Occasionally, the trail of prints stopped dead, continuing after a short break, Each footprint was uniformly sized, being about 4 inches long and 2.5 inches wide. The distance between them a more or less constant 8.5 inches. The occasional one looked as if it had been made by cloven hoof. Several times the tracks went straight up to the doorways of houses before returning again. Dr. Benson of Mamhead followed one particular set of tracks across fields to a haystack, which was around 20 foot high. The tracks stopped abruptly at the base, but when Benson went round to the other side, the footprints continued on across the fields, as though whatever had made them had climbed, jumped over, or walked straight through the haystack. The local clergymen were quick to explain the phenomena as the devil walking the countryside in search of sinners. Some believed that the prints were indisputable evidence of the existence of ghosts. Others sought more worldly explanations. A kangaroo that had recently escaped from a private zoo in Sidmouth was initially believed to have been the most likely culprit, until it was pointed out that the prints bore absolutely no resemblance to a kangaroo's tracks. It was then suggested that the footprints had been those of hungry badgers, forced by the snow to range across the county in search of food. Swans, rats, raccoons, and otters were also suggested as the culprits, but none of the explanations that centered on wildlife could account for the fact that the tracks had been observed over such a great distance. A hot air balloon with a trailing rope was suggested, but how a rope could have trailed up to a wall and then continued on the other side without somehow disturbing the snow on the top of the wall was never satisfactorily explained. The Devon affair was reported in the Times on the 16th of February 1855. The article stated that a group of armed men had set out from Dawlish to track down the maker of the peculiar prints, but as the newspaper commented wryly, as might be expected, the party returned as they left. However, the newspaper coverage did bring forth accounts of similar events both in Britain and in other countries, including one on the 19th of July 1205, when similar hoof prints in soft earth were reported following a fierce electrical storm. It was eventually deemed to be a mystery that was unlikely ever to be solved unless it occurred again. However, on the 16th of January 1968, the Times revisited the story, discussing an explanation forwarded by Mr. Alfred Leuchter of Essex. Naturalist Leuchter was an expert on animal footprints, and his theory was that mice had made the trail of prints. He explained his reasoning by demonstrating that when animals jump, they land on all 4 feet, and in soft melting snow, the impression of their bodies would form a U shape, a devil's footprint. The only wild animal in this country small enough to make such a track would be the wood mouse, which are abundant in the countryside, and Leuchter insisted that he had seen wood mouse prints in Epping Forest that corresponded exactly to the ones seen in Devon in 1855. Lucha's explanation was accepted as a likely one by scientists and zoologists, although critics pointed out that the tracks covered more than 100 miles, an impossible distance for so small an animal to cover. Fairly obviously, more than one animal was involved, and since a wood mouse can climb and leap, it seemed a probable solution to the mystery. Yet why would a wood mouse climb over house roofs? Could it ford a river, or was the alleged river crossing performed like a relay race, with one mouse setting off cross country as another reached the opposite bank? The year 2009 saw the heaviest snowfall in Devon and Cornwall for many years, and on the 12th of March, the Western Morning News reported an incident of similar footprints in Wolseley, North Devon. Reporter Louise Venables related the appearance of a mysterious trail of single-track prints, which approached a house door and then crossed the garden before vanishing into an area of relatively sparse snow coverage. The homeowner called in a representative of the Centre for Fortean Zoology, who theorized that the hoof-shaped prints may have been made by either rabbits or hares hopping on their hind legs. However, several readers subsequently contacted the newspaper with the suggestion that the prints were made by a fox called Liam, as was. Whereas these explanations seem perfectly reasonable today, they fail to explain the observations of 1855, at which time the prints appeared to climb over roofs and pass through narrow drain pipes and solid objects such as walls and haystacks, with no disturbance to the snow on top of the obstacles. So many years after the Devon affair, it is now unlikely that a satisfactory explanation will ever be found, unless, of course, there is a recurrence of the phenomena. Bum, bum, bum. How many more pages have we got to go? No, yeah, I think we will get this done tonight. Yeah. We're gonna stick this out, folks, if you pardon the expression. Oh, here he is. Come on. You're holding up the show, Derb. Come on. Oh, he's decided to jump up on the windowsill, so. Probably up to 1 hour and 15 minutes. Goodness me, we bumped through the hour mark, so cheers, me beers. Slange. Tonacombe Manor, Cornwall. Tonacombe Manor near Morwenstow is a 15th century house, formerly the estate of the Kempthorne family, and for many years sightings of several different ghosts have been reported, both in the house itself and in its surrounding fields. One of these is believed to be the ghost of Catherine Kempthorne, who died at the manor on the 12th of February 1613, which is thought to appear annually on the anniversary of her death. Several residents have reported strange knocking noises, like the sound of a person knocking on the door, Others have awoken in the middle of the night to see strange misty figures standing at the end of their beds, apparently watching them. A former owner of the property described one such apparition as that of an elderly lady dressed in Tudor costume, whose lips were moving as if she were talking, although she made no sound. Others describe another ghostly presence, that of a small, balding man, dressed in a black coat, waistcoat, and breeches that buttoned to the knee. In addition, a woman presumed to be a housekeeper has been seen standing by a fireplace with a large bunch of keys. Dogs and cats have also been said to behave strangely in the area, often staring fixedly at something unseen by human eyes. What do you reckon, Derp? No, he's looking out the window. He's looking at something fixedly unseen with human eyes. When it became known that I was researching this book, a farmer who farms close to the manor told me that on 2 separate occasions he had seen a man leaning on a field gate watching his tractor in apparent amazement. He described him as looking like a farm labourer, wearing a long, oversized brown smock and boots with gaiters. The same farmer has also heard the unmistakable sound of horses' hooves galloping in the surrounding fields when there were no horses in the area. God, this next one is a mammoth one. It's literally a page. Actually, this next one, when I say it's a mammoth one, it's literally 3 pages long. Goodness me. But this will be the last for tonight. So let's have some more Japanese style snacks, shall we? But I'm minded of the fact that sorry, I shouldn't start talking when I got a mouthful of Japanese snacks, or indeed, Japanese snacks. Hopefully, I can catch up with old friend Simon tomorrow. So, looking forward to that. So, cheers, me beers. Last for tonight, Week St Mary, Cornwall. 85-year-old Arthur related his experiences of owning a haunted holiday home in the village of Week St Mary during the 1970s and 80s. His daughter, now in her 50s, was with us while he recounted his story and confirmed his accurate recall of the salient details. Although we lived in the Midlands, we loved Cornwall. And from 1966 onwards, I took at least 2, often more holidays here each year with my wife and daughter. A small legacy that we received in the 1970s enables us to realise our dream of buying a holiday home in the area. I eventually bought a property without my wife having seen it. On a visit to Cornwall with my elderly father, I fell in love with a cottage in Week St Mary and put in an offer with the estate agent. The offer was accepted, and thus the first time that my wife saw the house was on the day we completed the purchase. The cottage had been unoccupied for some time, and although it was structurally sound, it was badly in need of redecoration. As I had hoped, my wife also fell in love with the property and was soon brimming over with ideas about colour schemes, carpets, curtains, and furniture. We first visited the cottage together in February, intending to stay in a hotel for a couple of days, looking around the cottage at our leisure and making some concrete plans for the renovations. However, we were thwarted by the weather. While we were in Cornwall, heavy snowfalls in the Midlands made the roads almost impassable for several days. And rather than risk driving home in such poor conditions, we elected to extend our stay and rough it for a few nights in our new home. I'm quite good at this accent, which isn't quite, he said modestly, which I'll explain. I'm from the Midlands. As you can tell by my thick Dudley accent, I'm from Kings Wynford. But anyway, on our first night there, my wife got up in the early hours to use the toilet. As she walked into the large bathroom, which had once been a bedroom, she was startled to see an old woman sitting there in front of the window. My wife let out a huge shriek and rushed back to wake me up. By the time I went into the bathroom, it was empty, and I managed, with some difficulty, to convince my wife that she had simply had a bad dream. This was all very well, except that the old lady took to appearing in the bathroom at all hours of the day and night. Although there was no actual chair in the room, her faint form was always seen in a sitting position before the window. My wife and I both saw her on several occasions and were able to describe her as being very elderly, with thinning grey hair gathered into a bun at the nape of her neck. She wore a high-necked grey dress with buttons all the way down to the front, all the way down the front. The snow in the Midlands finally cleared sufficiently for us to risk the journey home, and as we drove, my wife and I agreed on one thing. We would not mention the old lady to our daughter, who was then about 12 years old. She was a child with a very vivid imagination, and we didn't want to frighten her. What we hadn't expected was her. What we hadn't expected was her. What we hadn't expected was her first ever visit to the cottage when, having walked from room to room exploring, she then came to find us and announced seriously, "Do you know this place is haunted? You do know this place is haunted, don't you?" Read that again. What we hadn't expected was her first ever visit to the cottage when, having walked from room to room exploring, she then came to find us and announced seriously, "You do know this place is haunted, don't you?" She was not at all perturbed by the prospect of sharing her home with a ghost. In fact, make that two ghosts. We had allocated one of the bedrooms to be my daughter's room and had furnished it with twin beds, anticipating that she might like to bring a school friend with her on future holidays. We had also had built-in wardrobes installed, and it soon became obvious that there was a problem with one of the wardrobe doors, which refused to stay shut. Time after time, it would suddenly and unexpectedly swing open. And although we asked the firm who had installed the wardrobes to come back and check, they were never able to rectify the problem. Eventually, we decided that it was probably caused by uneven walls or floors and resorted to putting a chair in front of the door to stop it opening. Countless times after we had been out for the day, our daughter would go up to her bedroom and report that the chair had been moved while we were out and the wardrobe door was open again. Quick swig of the old beer. Oh, slange. Towards the end of our first family holiday at the cottage, our daughter appeared in our bedroom in the middle of the night, complaining that there was a man in the wardrobe. Strangely, she didn't appear at all frightened by this situation, but was instead rather grumpy because the man was hammering nails and the noise was keeping her awake. Over the years, several people who slept in her bedroom reported seeing an old man wearing a leather apron who appeared in the corner of the room, apparently tapping nails into something with a small hammer. Some people believed that he was a cobbler mending shoes. Certainly sounds like cobblers. More worryingly, at least two people independently saw what seemed to be the same man hanging from a ceiling beam within the wardrobe, his head inclined limply to one side. We never made any attempt to investigate the history of the house, but instead just accepted our visitors. As the years went on, we simply saw less and less of them, although most people visiting the cottage for the first time would report some sort of sighting at breakfast after their first night. Within a few years, we rarely saw anything untoward, although we did occasionally hear bursts of an unidentified tapping sound, similar to the sound of a person tapping in small nails or tacks. We reasoned that the ancient plumbing was most probably responsible for the noise. The only strange thing that we did notice was that, on occasions, tiny piles of fine beach sand would appear on the upstairs landing. By the 1980s, our daughter had grown into a young woman and had recently become engaged. Although she and her fiancé were not yet married, my wife and I allowed them to spend a holiday at the cottage together, when it quickly became apparent that our sitting tenants did not approve of such permissive parenting. Several times during their stay, their bedclothes were suddenly and inexplicably snatched from their bed in the middle of the night. The television switched itself on and off at will, and the wardrobe door not only opened by itself, but then subsequently slammed itself shut with a resounding crash, splintering the wooden plinth that separated the two doors. However, the strangest incident occurred when my daughter and her fiancé had been out for the day to a nearby beach. When they returned home, they found a ripe, juicy tomato had been carefully and very precisely placed on each and every tread of the staircase. The tomatoes had been in a brown bag in the larder when they had left earlier that day, and my daughter had the only key to the cottage, with the exception of one spare key that was, at the time, several hundred miles away in the Midlands. My daughter and her fiancé eventually married and afterwards spent many happy holidays at the cottage. Oddly enough, once they were legally married, there were no further incidents. No strange smells, no electrical disturbances, no piles of sand on the landing, no men and women roaming around, and definitely no fruit. We eventually sold the cottage after the death of my wife in the 1990s, by which time there had been no unusual activity of any kind for about 10 years. I'm just going to see what illustrations we have. So, artist impression of the seated lady and the old man who appeared at the cottage in weak St. Mary, drawings by Melanie Crawford. Another Crawford, goodness me. So there we go. Bum, 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 bum. Und also mit der weak St. Mary, copyright N. Sly. So there we go. We have managed to get the Haunted Almanac of Devon and Cornwall. We've got the February story out the way. Oh, the beer burps again. We're going to have some more wasabi. Oh my goodness me, I did chug my gob full of snacks there, but I do apologise. So, cheers, me beers. Oh, delicious. Sounds delicious. So, fingers crossed, we will be back with, brace yourselves, Sunday Night Ghost Stories on a Sunday. Looking forward to that. Until then, but well, do you know what? This is technically our last show in winter, because by the time we're with you on Sunday, it will be the 1st of March. We'll be in meteorological spring. Oh my goodness me, I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to that simply because I can turn the bloody heating off, quite frankly. But yeah, so hopefully we'll see you in spring. Hopefully by then I would have got rid of this dreadful beard. So until the next time, it behoves me to say thank you for watching. Why? Why not? What else are you going to do on one of the penultimate days of winter than watch a confused man from Dudley with holes in his head, drink ghost stories and read alcohol? Exactly. You can do better, folks. I can't, but you can do better. So until the next time, it behoves me to say thank you for watching. Stay safe, stay out of trouble, and please don't have nightmares. Good night.